Hey, what's up, you guys? Hope you all are doing well. So, welcome back to the end of week 14. And last week I said my process going into this week was to be at my screen at 3 a.m. New York time every morning for the London Open, because I believe on Thursday I did miss a trade due to screen availability, and I did call it out on that week's episode. So did I hold it this week? Partially. On this week I got 4 trades, 4 valid setups. Of those 4 valid setups, I did take 2 and I missed again 2. Now all the reason why I did miss these trades again came to the fact that I was not at with my laptop at that time when those setups were forming. So it's the same thing again. So the execution was not actually consistent again this week, and I will get more into specifics. But yeah, like I said, I got 4 value setup this week. 2 were taken, 2 were missed. 0 rules broken on the trades that I actually took the trades. So I ended up with a net positive of 0.33R. And let's just break the trades down. So looking at this chart over here of Eurodollar on 1 hour time frame, you can see we were pretty much bearish this whole week. But from Monday all the way to Thursday and early Friday, we were pretty much moving sideways, but with the general direction still being bearish. And after the news release for this NFP, of which it came out really higher than expected, that indicated the Eurodollar strength, we had this huge momentum to the downside. Now I'm not sure, but I think the reason why we were kind of like moving sideways through this entire time, because it's not just this week. If I zoom out again, you can see from May, in the middle of May last month, we were just moving sideways until this Friday. But I think more so because most people were waiting to see how these numbers would actually play out. That is my theory. Again, I'm not sure because I don't trade much based on news release, but that's just what I was thinking, that throughout the week we were having a sideways move because people were actually waiting to see how the news will actually turn out on Friday. 4 trade valid setups were present this week, and out of those 4 setups I took 2 and I missed 2. And the funny thing is, out of those 4 setups that actually occurred this week, 3 of them were on Tuesday. So 3 of the 4 setups were on Tuesday, and only 1 was on Wednesday. So I only had 2 trading days this entire week. And here is my first trade. As you can see here, this trade was taken. The setup did form during London session, and this was my reverse setup. I took short trade after seeing this price sweeping the liquidity above the high right during the London Open. And as you can see with this marker over here, now that for me is my step number 1. And then after that, you can see that the market structure shift was also confirmed right after, and that is step number 2. And then price did do a slight pull up into this area of imbalance, giving this order block its validity, and that is where I did put my entry, and my stop loss was placed above that order block for a 1 to 3. But as you can see on this trade over here, after I was triggered, price did move down, and then after that it retraced all the way up and took me out on this level over here. Now this trade, the stop loss was managed, and that was where my stop loss was, my trailing stop loss. And at the end of this trade over here, I did close with a negative 0.R, a very small loss. The move did continue to move to the downside, as you can see over here. which is frustrating when you're looking at the chart, but the trailing stop loss management system is deliberate, and that is also part of the process. So the overall process of how I executed here was clean. A small loss on a valid, well executed trade is not a bad trade. That distinction matters. So regardless of what the market did later on, as you can see here, I followed the rules. My execution was flawless in terms of how I trade, and that is the only thing that matters to me. So this was a successful trade based on how I judge my trading process moving forward. So like I said, on Tuesday there were 3 setups that formed. We already saw the first trade here that I took a small loss. So the second trade also came pre-New York session. As you can see over here, this was another reversal setup for me, and the sweep of liquidity right there, it is visible. And then over here you have this market structure shift confirmed, and then after that also you have this order block with that imbalance over here. Now also, another thing that I was looking for here is the fact that we had not taken this previous day high. So this was also another area of interest that made me think that this has a chance of moving to the upside. So all 3 criteria that I need to execute were present, but I didn't take it. I was away from my laptop when it triggered, and that's 2 missed setups now in 2 consecutive weeks due to screen availability. Last week it was on Thursday, I believe, during London Open. This week is Tuesday setup. The pattern is the same. Valid setups form, I'm not around. Now I am going to address this directly in a lesson segment, but I just want to show you the setup first so you can see what was actually left on the table. And yes, you can make an argument that this was a lost trade, but for a person who is focusing on the process and judging whether they're successful or not successful, not on their P&L but on the execution, on the process of their execution, this is a very significant loss to me. The setup did play out as it should. I didn't take the trade because I was away. So regardless of how this trade would have played out, it would have still been a loss on my book because I wasn't available when a value setup formed. So the third trade on this day and the second trade that I actually took came on New York session. During the New York session, as you can see here, we had a sweep of liquidity over here, and then we had this market structure shift down here, and then on this move over here you can see that we had that small imbalance over there that made this order block valid. Now my entry was placed right there, and then I placed my stop loss actually above this order block. I took a trade for 1 to 3 as usual, and as you can see, price did actually pull back into drawdown a little bit, and then it started to shift to the downside heading towards the New York afternoon times. Now as you can see, price did continue to push to the downside. It didn't actually hit my TP, but eventually it did, but yeah, I had to close it right here because this again was 4:45 p.m. and I do have a hard close rule that forces me to close at exactly 4:45 p.m. New York time, and that's exactly what I did. And I did close this trade with a positive 0.43R. And yeah, it's always interesting to see that how market usually moves on the next day. But for me, again, a rule is a rule. If the time comes to close the trade at 4:45, I will close it, I will log it, and no second guessing. That's just how my rules force me to behave. So that was the final trade on Tuesday, and that was trade number 3, and that was actually the second trade that I took on this particular week. So the final trade that I took for this week was a trade on Wednesday. I'm sorry, I actually didn't take this trade. This was the second missed trade of the week. And the reason why I couldn't take this trade again was because I was at work during this day, and actually at this specific time I was in a meeting, and I was actually just looking at this trade over my phone, and I knew that I couldn't do anything at that time, so that is why I missed this trade. But this was a valid trade nonetheless, because it was a continuation setup. Above here I had a rejection off of that point of interest, and with this move to the downside, I actually got this break of structure. Price broke to the downside, which was also this level that held the previous day low, triggered the trade, dropped down a little bit, and then continued to push to the upside. And then after that, we had this continuation to the downside, to the direction of the actual trade. But if I was to take this trade, I would have supposed to close it right here, because there was a red folder news event over here. Now I don't remember it specifically, but I think I'll put it somewhere around here. Now if I was to take this trade, I was supposed to close it over here for a little bit of a negative here. But yeah, I didn't take this trade because I was at work. So that is a second missed trade this week, and a third trade missed this week due to availability issues. So going on the scorecard for this week, there are 6 criteria. They are going to be the same every week, and I will only be judging on the trades that I've actually taken. So the first criteria is all 3 criteria that I need to see to execute have to occur after 3 a.m. New York time frame, of which I got that 2 from the 2 trades that I took, so that was a pass. Order block paired with imbalance on both trades, I got 2 from 2, so that was another pass. Correct entry for that particular session, I also got 2 from 2, and that was another pass. And stop placed above an order block on both trades, I did that also for both trades, so 2 from 2, that's another pass. Held to 3R or managed with a plan. Now the first trade that I took, I got stopped out with a trailing stop loss, of which it was deliberate. The second trade that I also took was I closed it at 445, which is a hard close rule. So both were managed with a plan, so I get 2 from 2, that's another pass. Close by 4:45 New York time frame, I did that on both trades, so that's 2 from 2, that's another path. So 12 from 12 on taken trades, but 2 valid setups missed, both due to the same root cause. The scorecard only measures what I took, and the misses are the real story of this week though. So the lesson this week is the one that I've had to name it twice in 2 weeks. Screen availability is a process responsibility. Week 13, I missed a trade on Thursday London setup. I wasn't at the screen. I said the fix was straightforward. This week though, I ended up again missing 2 setups for that exact same reason. So clearly it's not as straightforward as I thought it would be. This isn't about discipline in the abstract, it's scheduling problem. My strategy has a value setups forming primarily during the London Open, pre-New York and New York session, which means from 3 a.m. New York time to around 12 p.m. New York time is when I need to be available. And if I have any commitments that regularly pulls me away during those hours, of which I do, it means that I need a system, not just an intention. So going into next week, I think part of the job that I will need to do this weekend is figuring out how I'm going to maybe find a way to be able to trade on the way using my phone, because a compromise has to be made somewhere. So I'm currently not sure yet, because the reason why I miss all these trades is because I have work. So sometimes I'm on the road, or sometimes I'm with other people in meetings and stuff like that. So it makes it very difficult for me to be able to do all these things and execute in those specific moments. So I think I'm going to be spending this weekend just thinking of how I'm going to move forward, and probably finding a solution for this particular problem. So now going through my Funding Pips dashboard, as you can see here, we are still on a drawdown. I think by the end of last week we were minus 2.4. This week we're minus 2.1. So for the past 2 weeks, we've been recovering little by little still. We're not making big steps forward, but we are moving forward. I think, last week 5 was, we did close the week with a positive $30. Week 6, we are still closing positive again with $33. As you can see, there are 2 trades taken this week. Like I said, there were 4 setups. I took 2 trades and I missed 2 trades. So this was trade number 1 with minus $9, and this was trade number 2 with 42 and 40 cents. So yeah, that was that's how my numbers are looking like on my dashboard. So we're still on a drawdown. We are still on a drawdown overall. But yeah, I think focusing on the process, it has taken a little bit of the weight off my shoulder, and it keeps my mind stable, especially because I don't look at these numbers during the week. I literally open this when I'm recording these videos, but from Monday all the way to Thursday, I don't know the numbers. I just execute, and I think that has helped me to be able to execute. That's why the trades that I'm missing this time around, I don't miss those trades simply because I was scared to take the trades. I'm missing those trades because I'm not available. So I've been able, yes, to solve the problem of fear of losing money, but now I just need to focus on resolving the problem of always being available when it's time to take the trades. So yeah, to close this video off, I think again, going into next week, even though everything seems to be the pair seems to be a little bit not a little bit, actually it seems to be very bearish, my intention is to always have no bias and just react to whatever comes first. Overall, the net R for the week is positive 0.33 across the 2 trades that I actually took. Small week on the result side, but a clean week on a process, because all the trades that I took them with following everything that I need to follow on my rule sides. I do understand that there is still a screen availability issue that I need to resolve, and that is my assignment for this weekend, is actually figuring out how I'm going to resolve this issue moving forward. But my process for my thought for next week is literally just to continue to do what I'm doing, which is taking my trades, making sure that all trades that I'm taking, they follow the rules that I've set for myself, and making sure that if a trade setup has actually has all the 3 things that I need to see to take the trades, I take the trade. So these are the things that I will be moving forward with on the coming week. Until then, process of emotions. Take care.